No tears, just her steady, calm gaze making him fidget in his chair. He remembers the times she cried. He remembers her apologizing for mistakes that weren't hers, taking the blame for things he did and should have owned up to. But now there's nothing for him to manipulate. No anger left to fight, no guilt to twist, no soft spot he can slip through. This stillness isn't emptiness. It's sharp focus. Every memory, every broken promise, every subtle change in his voice has been silently stored in an archive he doesn't know exists. Over the years, she learned the blueprint of his fears, the weaknesses hidden in his confidence, the spots in his armor he never thought anyone could see. This time, she isn't looking for peace. She's reading him the way a surgeon scans an X-ray. Not with revenge in mind, but with the intent to carve away what doesn't belong. Carl Jung called this transformation chilling. It is the instant a true empath stops absorbing your pain and begins to see right through you. For years, she was the sponge, soaking up every outburst, every lie, every word. She carried all of it inside, letting the bruises build where nobody else would notice. Always the fixer. Always the one who understood everyone else's wounds while ignoring her own. But now, stillness means precision. Her memories aren't weapons. They're surgical tools. Every small betrayal and every shifting story was tucked away for a reason. Jung spent years trying to understand psychological prey. What happens when a deeply sensitive person becomes cold, and suddenly, more dangerous than the people who used to feed off them? He described it as a transformation so complete, it recalibrates how you see the world and yourself. This is the phenomenon I want to break down. The stages, the triggers, and why the cold empath doesn't just resist manipulation. They dance one step ahead of every manipulator. If you ever feel like you see too much, by the end of this, you'll realize just how close you are to that transformation. For as long as anyone can remember, the empath's image has been almost painfully predictable. Soft-hearted, always giving, the gentle one in the group, the family peacemaker, the friend who listens at 3 a.m. even while their own life falls apart. This version gets praise, but only for making life easier for others. The stereotype is a trap, a story written by those who benefit from your silence. It keeps you pouring your energy into everyone else and asking nothing for yourself. Somehow you're convinced that to be good means being endlessly available, endlessly forgiving, endlessly exploited. Jung saw it differently. He argued that highly sensitive people are not weak. They act as unconscious mirrors, picking up not only moods but motives. It isn't just spoken words, you sense what people don't want you to know. This is advanced perception, a kind of evolutionary consciousness that, under pressure, becomes a formidable strength. The paradox is this: the very traits that make you vulnerable, when claimed and integrated, make you impossible to break. Sensitivity isn't weakness. It's the foundation for a strength most will never experience. This is why predators hunt empaths before they realize their own worth. Your ability to sense shifts in tone before words are spoken, to spot micro-expressions, to track story inconsistencies, these are skills. Manipulators and narcissists know these skills could dismantle them if you ever used them. So they teach you to doubt yourself, apologize for your instincts, and call it overreacting. They convince you your emotional radar is a liability, because if you trust it, you would see through them instantly. Many empaths spend years trapped in that fog, believing myths about fragility. But when the haze lifts and you see the patterns for what they are, everything changes. The person who once bent under the weight of everyone else's problems becomes someone nobody dares to manipulate twice. Empaths can still care deeply, but not in the shallow way society expects. You can give without being drained. You become someone who chooses where empathy flows, not someone who is forced to pour it out. Ever wondered why manipulators and narcissists seem to spot you in every crowd? It isn't your imagination. It's a psychological pattern. Jung noticed that highly sensitive people act as mirrors, reflecting emotions even those trying to hide from themselves. Healthy people find that comforting. Predators see it as an invitation to dump their pain, shame, and guilt onto you. They want you to feel responsible for fixing their mess. For a narcissist, you're the perfect person to carry the baggage of their unresolved chaos. And if you absorb it, that's how the whole game starts. The projection magnet effect is real. If you're an empath, you don't just pick up moods, you absorb them. The narcissist knows you'll take on their chaos, sometimes even thinking it's your job to heal it. And that's exactly the opening they need. Once a manipulator knows you'll absorb their chaos, the next phase begins. They use psychological tactics, gaslighting, twisting your reality, planting seeds of doubt so you question your own perception. They use guilt as a leash. If you truly cared, you wouldn't make me angry. After everything I've suffered, how can you walk away? Your boundaries get reframed as cruelty. Emotional labor becomes your silent tax, constantly managing their moods, anticipating their needs, soothing insecurities at the cost of your own sanity. Maybe you've felt it in subtle ways. The friend who calls only in crisis and vanishes when you need help. The partner who erupts in anger then blames stress or childhood wounds. The family member who plays the victim so well that you swallow your frustration just to keep everyone at peace. The truth is, predators don't just stumble onto empaths, they seek them out. They can sense who will push back and who will absorb. Until that dynamic breaks, the cycle repeats. But here's what no manipulator sees coming. Every word, every tactic, every inconsistency, you've noticed it. You've stored it. One day, that archive turns the entire game upside down. There is this pivotal moment, the day you stop using your sensitivity to keep everyone else comfortable and start using it to see the truth. This is what predators fear most. Betrayal doesn't just hurt, it rearranges your entire view of reality. Long before the breaking point, you felt the small contradictions, the silent shifts in tone, the awkward pauses that held something unspoken. You clung to hope over certainty, telling yourself that love means giving the benefit of the doubt again and again. But suddenly, there's no room left for doubt. For Jung, betrayal was the universal catalyst in every empath's transformation, not just a minor slight, but a rupture so deep that it forces you to confront your own shadow. It might be discovering infidelity, facing financial deception, or uncovering a double life. Whatever starts it, one realization always comes. I saw this coming and ignored it. That's when everything inside you changes. First, the emotional chaos disappears. The heart that used to race during every conflict suddenly slows. The flood of feelings clears, leaving your mind observant and clear. Now you notice the details, the tightness in their voice, the way their eyes dart away, the shift in breathing when you hit a nerve. It feels like a lens you've carried for years finally snaps into focus. You don't feel rage or sadness. What you feel is precision. Jung described this as confrontation with the shadow. You stop denying the parts of yourself you were taught to hide. For empaths, that shadow isn't malice. It's intelligence that was called overthinking, intuition labeled too sensitive, strength conflated with selfishness. In that moment of complete clarity, all those suppressed traits step forward, and for the first time, work together. Manipulators expect emotional chaos. Tears, anger, begging. This is the battleground they know. What terrifies them is your silence. Stillness makes them nervous because suddenly they realize you've been paying attention. Jung believed that in this state, the empath's mind becomes a strategist's war room. Every observation is no longer passive. Now it's a map, guiding every move with surgical accuracy. This isn't revenge. It's the end of self-denial. Once you cross this threshold, there's no going back. You felt the difference between living in fog and seeing with fierce clarity. After that, manipulation loses much of its power. Approval-seeking fades away. The narcissist who thrived on your compliance now has to face your unflinching gaze, and they feel exposed even though you haven't raised your voice. If you've reached that moment where truth drowns out hope, you know exactly what this feels like. Type it in the comments. I've had my clarity event. Because now, the story turns. When the empath shifts from absorber to strategist, every manipulator senses the change. Many imagine empathy as some mysterious sixth sense, a gut feeling, magic intuition. For a cold empath, it isn't magic. It's data, memory, evidence. Long before the clarity event, empaths start collecting information. Every sigh, every pause, every change in tone, every micro-expression and slip in body language gets stored. Over years, it builds a living archive. Most times, empaths never use this archive. They're busy soothing others, keeping the peace, ignoring their own clarity. Betrayal is what unlocks it. All the moments you brushed aside, every lie you swallowed, rush into focus at once. You don't have to search for evidence. It's ready and waiting. The cold empath doesn't react from hurt. They present facts. The difference is devastating. While the manipulator expects emotional chaos, the cold empath delivers surgical precision. On this day, you said this. 2 weeks earlier, you said the opposite. Here is what you did right after. There's no room left for denial. It has stopped being about feelings. It's about reality. Jung saw this not as vindictiveness, but as integration. The empath's gift, when combined with their stored observations, becomes full perception. When you finally stop excusing others and use your clarity calmly, predators can't defend their tactics. The narcissist manipulates in the moment. You've been tracking the entire timeline, connecting the dots that make the whole game visible. If you've always felt you notice lies, remember tiny details others ignore. Here's the truth. You're not paranoid. You're perceptive, building knowledge you haven't used yet. When you do, the dynamic shifts forever. The predator who relied on your empathy as a weakness now faces it as an advantage. Individuation is what Jung called this, becoming whole by integrating everything that was hidden. The cold empath follows a process, recognizing the shadow, integrating it, and applying empathy strategically. Your energy no longer goes to draining people but is focused where it's valued and deserved. You choose your battles. Your boundaries become clear. If manipulative coworkers or friends try to bait you, your calm refusal and strategic silence force them to look elsewhere. A cold empath isn't playing to win approval or chasing revenge. They outlast manipulators with clarity. Toxic tactics fall flat. The stillness, that signature calm, becomes an unbreakable shield. Predators expect resistance and drama. They're never ready for someone who simply cannot be touched. This is why the cold empath is more dangerous than the narcissist. Manipulators rely on reaction. The cold empath relies on resolve. Their power is self-sustaining, and once you've reached this point, everything shifts. Those who exploited you drift away. The ones who respect you remain. Empathy is now a gift you choose to share, not a resource others take. Jung feared this transformation only because clarity, used for harm, can be as sharp as any weapon. But clarity used for good can shape families, workplaces, and communities. When an empath uses their insight to heal and protect, they become the person predators avoid and honest people admire. If you see yourself at this crossroads, ask, when your moment arrives, will you shape the transformation or let it shape you? The cold empath doesn't just change, they become the mirror that quietly reshapes every system around them, until only truth can survive. If you've witnessed this shift in your own life, say it here. I see everything. I choose where to look. This is how transformation begins, and once you know, you cannot unsee it.